Hi all, Violet here, second generation homeschooling mom of 3. I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and an infant. Today I wanted to share with you my curriculum picks for my daughter's 3rd grade year, which is her 5th year of homeschooling. So let's get into it. So a lot of this curriculum, we're just continuing on with the next level of what we've already used. So for math, we're continuing on to the next level of Singapore Primary 2022. And for this curriculum, the only books that you need are the student book and then either the teacher's guide or the home instructor's guide. And then there's a bunch of supplemental books you can use if you want. And then there's also digital online like extension and reteach problems. And so we use those online things. So we'll continue on with this. We've used every level of this Math Facts That Stick series. So in between 4A and 4B of Singapore, we'll stop and do this. These lessons are short enough that you could just do them with the math program, but my daughter's a bit ahead and she tends to work through the math book quickly. So if I add this in as a break in the middle, then we end up having enough Singapore math for our whole school year. And then she'll keep doing these learning wrap-ups. We have a whole bunch of different ones, but she does one of these every day, one key of these every day for review. And then I also bought these math manipulatives, or math tools, I guess. This is a compass, protractor, a triangle. There's another triangle too, but my daughter's using it. Just to make it a little bit easier for her to do some of the geometry stuff that she's going to start doing in 4th grade. For writing, we're continuing on with the next level of writing with ease. So that's not changing at all. A lot of this curriculum I've done flip-through videos of, so I'll link them all down below. It's going to be a lot of video links. For grammar, we're continuing on with the next level of first language lessons. This is the first level that has a separate instructor and student book. And in this level, they introduce diagramming. I do think they introduce diagramming in a way that's easy to teach, but I am going to, instead of teaching diagramming, I'm going to use Rooted in Language's Grammar Bugs resource. These are the little manipulatives that you print out for grammar bugs. It just makes a lot more sense to me, and I think it'll be more useful for my kids. So I'm going to use the sample sentences provided in first language lessons and then use all the materials from Grammar Bugs to teach those sentences. So that's my plan for that. And then we'll use the rest of the things in first language lessons that are provided, like the narration and all of that. For spelling, we're continuing on with all about spelling. My daughter finished levels 3 and 4 this year. So next year she'll almost certainly finish level 5. We may finish level 6 as well, depending upon how quickly she moves through them. She doesn't use any of the cards or tiles or anything with all about spelling, just the books. So that's pretty straightforward. For handwriting, we're moving into the next level of Zahner Bloser, and I bought the paper for it too, just because I think that's a little bit easier. So in this, we're doing more cursive. She did the cursive book for 2nd grade, so just continuing on with cursive. And at the end of the year, we'll see if I think she needs more cursive next year, or if we can just switch to doing all of her assignments in nice handwriting. For literature, we'll be doing Fish Tank ELA's 3rd grade units. I think we're planning to do all of the units. We usually do. There's occasionally a science unit that my daughter wants to skip because we've covered it really thoroughly in Building Foundations of Scientific Understanding. But for the most part, we do all the units. We've enjoyed them. So for science, we're using the next level of Building Foundations of Scientific Understanding. We've actually already started this level. And I did have to purchase a microscope for this, so I bought this microscope. This is the AmScope M150C. It has an LED light and different magnification settings, and it's just a really good quality student microscope. And then for BFSU, we also need these glass slides. So these are blank glass slides, and then the little glass covers to make our own slides for different microscope projects. And then I also, just for fun, bought my kids these AmScope slide sets to play around with. These are plastic, so I don't have to worry about my kids hurting themselves. The glass ones, these do have kind of beveled edges, but sometimes they can be a little bit sharp, and if you're hard on them, you can break them. I don't know. I just felt more comfortable having these plastic slides for my kids to play around with. The disadvantage of plastic slides is that sometimes the preparations are a bit thicker, and so you can't always see through everything. They're just a little bit lower quality. But again, I bought these for my kids to kind of just play around with, so I didn't mind. And it was $15 for all of these slides, so not complaining. For history, this is kind of our big change for the year. We've always done History Quest, and I really like History Quest. I really liked the Ancients level, and I really liked the Medieval level, but I got this United States level, and it already wasn't what I wanted because I really like the 4-year world history cycle with US history embedded into world history so you can kind of understand it in context. Even at the elementary level, when you're not necessarily going into tons of details, having that underlying context to build on later, I think is really helpful. But we've loved History Quest so much that I thought I'd give this a try anyway, but then I got it and it's so light and it skips around so much. It kind of feels just like highlights or important events in American history, which can be fine, but they're not really connected to each other. Like there's no World War I chapter. It skips straight to the Great Depression. And the very first paragraph of the Great Depression kind of talks about how World War I led to it. But if your kid doesn't know what World War I is, that's not very helpful. So History Quest, a lot of people talk about it as if it's a secular replacement for Story of the World, which Story of the World, the first 2 levels are definitely not secular. The second 2 levels are, and History Quest uses them for now their modern history bridge, which is the sort of like 4th year after this US history. And so I was looking at the table of contents for that, and they end up skipping a bunch of topics in early modern times. And I don't know, I just wasn't happy with it. But it made me take a look at Story of the World again, because I'd originally written it off because it's kind of whitewashed. Like the American history sections can be problematic. The world history sections can gloss over things, but we're going to use it next year anyway. And the reason why is because Curiosity Chronicles would probably be the best substitute, just objectively speaking, but my kids cannot stand Curiosity Chronicles. It makes them cry, it makes them melt down. Something about the way the information is presented, the dialogue style, it's not even just the recording, because I've tried reading it to the kids, and it just does not work for them. At least one of my kids has sensory processing issues, and I think that probably contributes to their difficulty with the dialogue style, but it just always causes meltdowns. So I mentioned casually considering it for this next year, and both of my kids absolutely would not have it. So then I was kind of like back to the drawing board, and I remembered that Pandia uses Story of the World for their next level. And so I was looking at the samples, and I actually really like it. It definitely has some problems. Like I gave this book to my husband to read the sections on Colombia. He's Colombian, so I wanted to get his perspective. And there's nothing majorly wrong there. But when Susan Wise Bauer is talking about Simón Bolívar, for example, she tells you interesting facts from his life and all about him, but she kind of cuts out everybody around him. So there's a woman, I can't remember her real name, but she's a really big folk hero in Colombia, and she's referred to as La Libertadora del Libertador, the liberator of the liberator. Simón Bolívar was in some situation where people were coming after him, and she pushed him out a window and saved his life. And she is cut out completely from his story here. And I feel like if History Quest were writing early modern history, she would be featured more prominently, but she's not in here at all. And I'm sure she is probably cut out because they're trying to reduce the number of people to keep track of, which I understand, but I feel like that's sort of a snapshot of all of the problems with Story of the World, is that it focuses on the, quote, great men, so to speak, at the expense of other major players in history. So we are going to be using this next year, but I'm definitely going to supplement. I'm not going to use probably most of the American history chapters. I'm going to substitute History Quest because History Quests are more progressive and I just like them a lot better. But I was going through and comparing just in this volume of Story of the World. These are all of the events from American history that are not mentioned at all in History Quest. So I have to read these chapters in this book and decide if I'm going to use the chapters from this book or if I'm going to find other resources to cover them. I think Story of the World is most problematic in its American history, or maybe I can just recognize it the most easily in those chapters. I don't know. I did get the student activity guides for both of these books. I just got them digitally. But the other thing that we consider when we were looking at history programs is audiobooks. Like, do they have audiobooks? We love the History Quest audiobook. The woman who reads it, her voice is very calm, and the narrative style works really well for my kids. Jim Weiss narrates the audiobook for Story of the World, and I like Jim Weiss. I grew up listening to his stories. My kids listen to a lot of his stories. His audiobook for Story of the World is not my favorite. It's very sing-songy, which I find kind of distracting. But I had my kids listen to a sample of it and they were fine with it. So at the end of the day, the best curriculum is the one that you are going to actually do. So for us this year, we're going to be combining Story of the World and History Quest and other resources to kind of get as close as I can to the history curriculum that I want. I've also in the past used the Lit House Learning books for history, writing workbooks based on the writing revolution, and I really like them, but my daughter is getting kind of bored of the same format. She's done them for 2 years now, so I think this year I'm going to try to do my own writing workbook for history and maybe change it up a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. If I can't manage to do it consistently, then I'm just going to buy Lit House Learning's history workbooks because they've worked well for us in the past. 2 other things for history. I saw this book at my local thrift store. It was 25 cents, so I grabbed it. It's one of the optional reading books for History Quest. And then I also picked up this at the thrift store. I think this is out of print, but my kids, especially my oldest daughter, has been showing a lot of interest in origami lately, and she loves all things Japanese. She was born in Japan, so she just is really, really interested in all things Japanese. So this has origami and art and haiku that all go together. So it has a bunch of pages of that, and then at the back it has origami paper, which you don't necessarily need, but it was kind of nice that this used copy still had all the origami paper in it. So I think that'll be fun. I'm not sure we're going to get to this year. We'll see how it goes, but my kids have been asking to do more origami, so that was a fun find. For art, my daughter will continue on with the next 2 books in the Artistic Pursuits K-3 series. These are the ones with the DVDs. I really like having the DVD. Is it essential? No, but it's really nice. And then I haven't bought the supplies for this book yet, but for this book, the only things that I needed were this printing roller and ink. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to doing printing with my daughter. For foreign language, my daughter goes to a Mandarin Chinese school. It's in person once a week. I'm really happy we have that available to us because she loves Mandarin and it is not something that I can teach her, so that's great. For PE, she is going to keep doing swim lessons. I always make my kids do swim lessons for safety. So she'll do swim lessons and then dance also. And those are the only PE things we have planned for her this year. And then she'll also take classes at our co-op. Those are usually not PE classes. They're more just social or fun classes. So that's everything that I have planned for her this year. All right, that's it for this video. I'm planning to do a video for my son's stuff and then a video for our family subjects, so stay tuned for those. I hope you found this helpful. I will link everything in the description box below. I am an Amazon affiliate, so if you click on an Amazon link and make a purchase, I do receive a small commission. Thank you for watching.